Hi my love, Jarae, Milay, the girlfriend away, where we have culture, conversation, and community. And in today's video, I'm coming to you all with a Starz Network P-Valley review, girl. Let me get this right. This episode is called Jackson. So the opening scene starts off with Grandma Ernestine, baby, and she is on stage. She's in her glory. It looks like we're in the timepiece period, maybe the 50s, early 60s or whatever. We see Grandma Ernestine and she's singing and she's doing her whole little thing. I think, side note, I think Loretta Devine was one of the first original dream girls, so that was cute that they had her in that little, you know, faux, you know, on stage little situation. We see the Pink in its former glory, in its earlier years. We see like a 50s thing, a 60s thing, and into the 70s. Okay, so the Pink has been a staple in Chucalissa since way when Grandma Ernestine is coming back to on stage, and she's kind of like, you know, out of her mind, living in her former glory. And she sees her daughter, and her daughter comes up to her and offers her a drink, and she's like, come on mama, come with me. And she's like, it's not time, I'm not ready. And we see Grandma Ernestine on stage not looking good, and all I can say is, y'all, Grandma Ernestine finna die. See, we do have a little snippet of young Clifford looking and listening to his grandmother, you know, on stage. And, you know, that's just, you know, it was a really sentimental opening scene. And then we just have it, you know, they hit it down in the valley where the girls get naked, you know what I mean? And I was just like, whoo, Grandma Ernestine. So we finally see Uncle Clifford and Haley have a sit down and a discussion. And Uncle Clifford lets us know that, like, my granddaddy was here, my great-great-granddaddy, my great-great-great-grandfather was over there drinking that moonshine liquor, you know what I mean? Like, how can you put a price on my ancestors? You know what I mean? Haley, this is not what it should be. Haley says, they offered me $5 million. And, you know, Uncle Clifford kind of does, you know, a little cackle, like, oh, girl, wait a minute. And Haley said, I'm trying to get this money for us, you know. And he was basically like, no, you're getting it for yourself. You get what I'm saying? You can't put a price on my ancestors. And she says, you know, well, listen, I don't want this money to go to waste. Like, you know, I lost my daughter in this situation. And Uncle Clifford reminds her, like, girl, your daughter's not here. Yo, baby's gone. Girl, now we see Shell and not Shell, Mercedes and Terica, and she's on the phone with Shell, and she's basically like, you know, I want her to stay over here for a couple more days, let her get herself together. And girl, Terica's on the couch. She's living, you know, she's living like how she want to live. She's in her room finally. I'm like, girl, we finally see that Terica is able to get into this room that, you know, Mercedes has been working so hard to get her into under these circumstances. What a shame. Mercedes asks, what does she want to do? And she's like, I don't know, but I do want some yogurt, some frozen ice cream with the hot sauce and this and the third. Mercedes was like, girl, you surely is pregnant. And she's like, well, we're gonna go to TCBY. I think that's what it's called. I've never even had that. I've heard it before. We don't have it where I'm at. Like frozen yogurt, like Dairy Queen, I don't know. We're gonna go get some ice cream or whatever. And she's like, oh, can I drive? And she's like, hell no, you can't drive. And she got that cool mom syndrome, because, you know, we know what Mercedes does. Shell was supposed to be the responsible parent, and they get into the car to go to the frozen yogurt spot. So in the next thing we have Little Murder, and he's sitting on the couch and he's smoking his, you know, doobie pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Girl, I don't know where that came from, but you know, he getting high, and as he's getting high, he's thinking about Big Teak, you know, R.I.P. Big Teak, and any other black man that's going through it in the struggle. Girl, we see y'all, we recognize y'all. And he's having those flashbacks. And that PTSD is real. When you go through something traumatic like that, PTSD is real, and it goes so untreated, because people feel like, oh, I'm strong, I'm tough, I can handle the girl. If you're going through something, get you some help. He's having those flashbacks, because we'll do it. That'll do it. And, you know, Grandma Ernestine, he goes into the room with Grandma Ernestine, and he's feeding her. She's like, what's that? I think it's smothered pork chops, collard greens, cornbread, and mac and cheese, or whatever she said. He was like, yeah, you know, you sure do got your senses right, because, you know, a lot of people were losing their sense of smell with COVID, which is so weird. And he was just, Grandma Ernestine said, listen, you keep cooking like this and flirt with me, you know, you're gonna have an old bitch or whatever, you know, something she said. And he was like, Grandma, stop flirting with me. And Grandma Ernestine was like, I ain't the old bitch I'm talking about. So he was like, maybe you can put in a good word for me. She was like, well, you keep cooking like this and I think about it, but I smelled that death all over you. I smelled it all over you that night you came, and that blood. And he kind of just like looked and paused. You know, blind people be having that sixth sense. My great grandmother, God bless her, granted she was mean as hell. She was blind, but you could barely tell. She was smoking weed well into 98 years old. Old granny. So in the next scene we have Derek and Keyshawn, and Derek is fake, you know, happy, trying to overcompensate. You want some of these moon pies? You want some of this hot sauce? Girl, they in the store. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I don't want anything. And he's like, damn it, Keyshawn, I'm trying. Like, he still can't even, you know, just be nice to her. And Keyshawn notices Autumn Night or Haley. I don't know which one she's showing up as. And she's like, Derek, I'm going to go to get some more makeup to cover my, you know, to cover my eye. And he's like, all right, you know, he lets her go. And she's in the makeup aisle. She sees Haley, and Haley's like, I see you ain't used the gun that I gave you. And she was just like, you know, it's hard or whatever. She's like, it's more ways to get out, baby. It's more ways. And I'm like, finally, somebody is showing up for Keyshawn. Like, I know she put that shit at the pink, but don't turn y'all back on her. She still need help. You know, that mental abuse, that physical abuse, girl, that shit be having you in a chokehold. So out of nowhere, you hear the Derek calling for Keyshawn because God forbid the baby starts crying and he actually knows what to do with a child. That was the end of the scene. So in the next scene, we're back at the house with grandmother Ernestine, Cliff, and Little Murder. And you know, Cliff is coming in like, how's my grandmother? Where my grandmother at? And you know, Little Murder was just like, you know, blood sugar's 100, temperature's 101. She done ate the food, whatever the case is. And Cliff was looking like, whatever. So they start talking about the whole money situation, and Little Murder was like, well, 5 million means 1.3 million for you, you know, if you own 33% or whatever the case. And you know, they were just talking about the whole money situation, and Cliff was like, sometimes the money ain't enough. Uncle Clifford mentions, you know, I heard you in your sleep, you know, I heard you on that couch sleeping and moaning and groaning. So in the following scene, we are in the car with Miss Terica, okay, Miss Terica and Miss Mercedes, and she's going on certified free, okay, 7 days a week. She's sitting in that wet ass bake this pull out game week, and which I hate. I don't like that song, and like, girl, I don't know, it just never grew on me. So you know, Mercedes turns it off like, that's your problem now, that's why we in this situation right now. Like, girl, that is not the song you need to be singing about no pull out game and you pregnant at 14, baby. So Terica notices that she passed TCBY, and she's like, we're not getting frozen yogurt, are we? She's like, oh, so we going to Jackson? She's like, you want me to have an abortion? She was like, no. You want me to get rid of it? And she was just like, you know, you want me to have it? She was like, no, I want to know what your options are. You at least need to get some prenatals, whatever the case may be. Come to find out, her boyfriend knows that she's pregnant. She's like, well, why I'm the one driving you down to Jackson and not his ass? She's like, well, he wants me to have it. And they're on their way to Jackson, and Terica is like fighting her because she's unsure. She doesn't know if she want to have her baby or not, and her mom is pushing her to go to Jackson, to the clinic. So we get a phone call from Wody to Little Murder, and he's just like, you know, Big Teak is still at the funeral home. Ain't nobody in the family come to claim him. And Little Murder was like, you know what, don't worry about it. We gonna send my nigga off right. You know, it is what it is. But Wody's ready to get this tour started back up. But honestly, Little Murder is not in the headspace. He's not. He can tell after that conversation. So then Little Murder goes into the room with Uncle Clifford, and she's looking around at Uncle Clifford, and he's like, what's this old thing? Oh, this is my first Gucci purse. I had this at 3. And Little Murder is just like, you know, what are you? He's like, you've always been like this? And he was like, I'm Uncle Clifford. Who are you? You know what I'm saying? And I think that I think that was an important scene, especially for the LGBTQ community. They talk about how you know, Little Murder has always been like this. The guys that he was with before were able to pass. And if y'all don't know what the whole pass situation is, it's not like the color, like you pass the test or not. It's like y'all can pass as regular 2 guys. You don't, you're not flamboyant, you're not outwardly expressing yourself in a different way. So that way, if 2 regular men walking by, they would pass as just 2 homeboys. So it's different for Little Murder, who obviously is attracted to Cliff, but is not as secure as Cliff is. Talk about Murder Night. He was like, you know, I messed up. You know, I really messed up at Murder Night. He was just like, I understand you wasn't ready to stand in my light. You know, you wasn't ready to burn that bright in my sun, and I understand and I get it, but it wasn't right. Out of nowhere, they realized that Grandma Ernestine is gone, child. I'm like, where the hell is Grandma Ernestine going? She can't even see, and she got a temperature of like 101. You know, make it make sense. So Terica has to stop to use the restroom because we all know when you pregnant, girl, you gotta pee every 2 seconds. And she goes into a diner, and while Mercedes is sitting outside, Terica is using the bathroom. Mercedes is sitting outside, and Mercedes has a flashback of her and Pastor Woodbine, and they are essentially at the table. Pastor Woodbine doesn't have enough money to cover the tab, and she's looking very much like a pimp. And she's like, you know, Sadie's, go over there and do that thing that you do, and pointing her in the direction of a grown man. And Sadie's is like, what? I ain't gotta do that. I already got some money in my wallet. So she's pulling out the wallet, and Pastor Woodbine is like, what's that? And it's a actually it wasn't, you know, Pastor Woodbine, she was Patrice back then. She pimping Patrice. And she pulls out a condom, and she starts beating her behind. You whore, you spy, you beating her all up, because she was like, you know, Court says he loves me, he's taking care of me, or whatever the case may be. So you know, she had that harsh flashback. I think it's also telling too, because now we're getting more information. A lot of these young girls be coached into dealing with these older men. Now whoa, I'm not saying that these older men ain't scum and terrible and pervs and deserve the back of the hand in the back of the prison, but I think that's an unspoken thing when mothers use their daughter's youth, their daughter's naivete, their maybe, you know, budding sexuality to prey upon men. And even if it's done indirectly with, girl, you got a boyfriend, what you asking me for money for? You know, those small nuggets that older women instill in the younger women, right? Can I get an amen? So Terica gets back in the car, and she basically says, you know, me and my boyfriend are in love, and maybe that's the issue with you. You were never loved by anybody, so you jealous of me. You don't want me to have no baby, and this, that, and the third. And Mercedes slaps her. Okay, and when she slaps her, Terica says, I ain't never gonna hit my baby whenever, you know, whatever. And Mercedes was like, yeah, I said the same thing. And I'm glad that it wasn't no bullshit like slap you. Oh, I can't believe you smacked me. Like, nah, little B. Because that's how it happened in real life. Just like that. So Terica and Mercedes arrive at the abortion clinic, and girl, the protesters are out there. We save the life, save the babies, save the children. These are the same people who know that there are millions of people, millions of children in foster homes. They didn't foster these kids, not adopting any of these children, are the same ones that are out there, you know, trying to scare you and guilt you into not having an abortion, but they won't even take care of the children that are already in the system. Girl, they out there spitting all that vitriol. And you know, Terica is going in, she's looking all scared. She kind of snatches away from Mercedes, who was actually holding her hand, trying to get her through it. Mercedes turns around and looks into the crowd. She sees her mom, that, you know, that eye, that watchful eye of Pastor Woodbine. Terica goes and get her ultrasound, and you know, she's 14 weeks, which is pregnant, you know, that's real pregnant. And you know, she says, well, you have to wait 24 hours in order to come back, you know, and every law, every state is different when it comes to an abortion and the processes. I had no clue that in Mississippi, this is prior to this whole overturn of Roe v. Wade, which is like, the writers are so on point. How could they know? How could they know that we would be faced with this? Even in certain states, you can't go and just have the procedure. You have to wait 24 hours. Like, is there counseling involved? Just interesting to know that that's what the law would be like in Mississippi. Maybe it's made up. I don't know about like the southern states and how it all works, but girls, it's a hard episode for a lot of women. You know, a lot of women have abortions. A lot of women feel strongly against them. A lot of women feel strongly against or for, you know, pro-abortion. I'm not even going to address men, because for what? Y'all don't have a vagina. Y'all can't carry a baby in a womb. So let's not even get into that. But I just say, you know, if you were triggered by this, girl, I understand. If you weren't, and you feel like, you know, she should have had a baby, girl, relax, you know. her body, her choice, period. Ernestine, girl, Ernestine, they finding clues, like Blue's Clues, a slipper here, a bonnet there. We find Ernestine at the Mississippi, you know, at the water. Girl, oh my gosh, I will never forget, I was in Mississippi. I went to this beautiful lake. I often think about it, like, damn, that was a beautiful body of water there. And it's so sad we don't have stuff like that in Jersey. But girl, anyway, she at the lake, and she is well, I had a good time at that lake. So she's at the water. She's like, I need to get in the water, I need to get in the water. Beulah. And Little Murder like, who's Beulah? She's like, my mother. And Uncle Clifford is realizing the nearest, and she's like, well, if I can't get in the water, then bring it to me. Little Murder is so caring and so compassionate, you know, dips his hat or something in the water, drips it, and then, you know, drizzles the water all over her. Oh, I love a man that got compassion. Just love to see it. Sadie's and Terica is back at the hotel, and they're at the pool. We see a girl, she got 17 kids, and she's like, that could be you. That could be you. And she's like, you know, how you gonna live your life? You know, you can go to Paris, you can go to China. She's like, hi, well, have you been? And she's like, no, I did everything to stay close to you. And, you know, she's just like, well, I'll have the grandma watch it, you know, watch the baby. And she's like, stop calling Patricia grandma. She's like, I ain't talking about Patricia, I'm talking about you. And she was like, oh shit, I'm gonna be 30 and a grandma, y'all. That would be wild. That would be wild. Like, that'd be wild. If I was a grandma right now, that would be wild. Like, it's wild that I'm a parent at this point. Like, I'd be looking at myself like, girl, you really a mom? Like, imagine a grandma. Also too, it's also a nod to how them generational things repeat itself, because damn, like, I know a lot of y'all and y'all families, like, you know, generations just repeating the cycles. And, you know, if you are trying to break those cycles, girl, shout out to you. You know, we don't get enough credit, because it's hard when you're breaking generational cycles. It's very hard, or at least you're aware and you're trying to do better. So let's give ourselves a clap. I'm clapping you up too, period. Steen is on her way to the hospital. They had to call the ambulance. Girl, they had to call the ambulance. And you know, Ernestine is going off, I don't want to die alone. And, you know, Uncle Clifford is distraught. You know, we see that little whole breakaway of the dramatic hand scene of them breaking away from one another. And Uncle Clifford's distraught. And during that time of COVID, you couldn't go to the hospitals and see your family. And I think even though it was just a couple of years ago or 2 years ago, we forget, like, the intensity and the level of and the impact of having a family member being impacted by COVID and not being able to care for them, then maybe not able to go to the hospital. It was just so many things. You're in a hospital, I can't visit you know, you can't have a funeral if they pass. I know a lot of people were affected by it. Personally, you know, somebody went out to the club, came back home, gave the whole damn family COVID. You know, grandma and grandpa died. Like, oof, that's hard. If you're living with that, baby, get you some COVID grief support. I know that's out there. A lot of people are like, have gone through that. That's serious. Terica and Sadie's are back at the hotel, inside the hotel room, and Terica's trying to put on her jeans. She's like, mama, can we go? No, Sadie's, can we go to the outlets, because at this point my good jeans ain't fit no more. She said, that's because your ass is pregnant. Time's up, Terica. What is you gonna do? She's like, you're not gonna force me. And they get into it. She's like, how come you were never there for me? She was like, they kept me away from you. I thought if I could maybe get my gym, then they'll understand that I'm more than just a hole on a pole. And Terica's like, well, it still wasn't enough, you know, you still not in my life. And then she goes into the bathroom and she shuts the door, and she's like, did you want to have me or whatever? She was like, I mean, were you trying to abort me? And she's like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider it, but I didn't have no choice. You know, the judge, Shell, and my mama controlled everything, and that is so hard. I can just imagine that being really hard, not having any type of control over your motherhood journey. Motherhood is hard as damn. If y'all handle kids and y'all believe anything that I say, it's not easy, but it's doable, especially when you have the support. You get what I'm saying? But when you got somebody else involved and this, that, and the third, girl. Mercedes is looking at herself in the mirror. She sees her mom a little bit, you know what I mean? And then she's just basically like, you know, I just need you to be my mom. You know, I'm having a baby, you know, and Mercedes. She says like, well, what color you want your room? She was like, green. She was like, how you know? She's like, because I'm your mama. So we have Clifford in the shower and he's crying, girl, and he is just upset. Grandma Ernestine is in the hospital. And then we have earlier in the episode we had like a Cisco reference, and we hear the thong song playing. We see little Murder in a little outfit, girl. He had on some fake floss, if you can call it that. And you know, little Murder is playing with that thong, 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 thong. And you know, Clifford is just laughing and eating it up. They fall into the bed, and he's like, yeah, you thought I didn't know who Cisco was. I know who Cisco is. Little Murder was trying to vogue. He was like, ain't this how you do it, or whatever the case. And I just thought it was so cute because he was finally able to be himself. You know, he's always walking around with this big chip on his shoulder, but it was cute to see that type of interaction. And I can't imagine, you know, living a closeted life where you can't truly be who you are. As they're laying and giggling, the laughs turns into crying. You know, they're both hurt, and you know, they start to kiss, they start to make out. And just side note, little Murder is small as hell compared to Uncle Clifford, because damn, he looked like a little puny teeny weeny thing. And Uncle Clifford pulls out a condom, and you know, little Murder's like, nah, I want to feel you inside of me. And I'm like, damn, Clifford's the top? I wasn't expecting that. I thought maybe power bottom. I'm sorry, that was wrong. Nothing wrong with the bottoms, girl. There's nothing wrong. You know, the bottoms make the world go round, apparently, because you know, somebody got to do it. Anyway, so he's like, no, he's like, are you good? He was like, yeah, I'm good. And he's like, no, are you good? Meaning like, you negative? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I want to feel you, or whatever the case. And they have sex. You know, the girls are like, you know, oh, whatever. It was weird. It was disturbing. I mean, it's not, I'm gonna be honest with you. I cannot watch or enjoy watching two men have sex and not be homophobic. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why y'all think that two, like women want to see two men having sex if that's not what we're into. You know what I mean? Move along. It's not that I'm not homophobic because I don't watch it or I don't enjoy watching it. Like, y'all need to relax with that. But they do what they do, and it is what it is. Stay. Okay, Mercedes hands Terica the keys, and she's like, baby, you make your own decision. We going back to Chuckalisa or we're going to Jackson? And you know, I thought that was empowering. Terica drove to Jackson. After they have sex, Clifford or Little Murder asks Clifford, why you let me back in? And Clifford basically says, you needed me and I needed you. And you know, Little Murder started talking about the other night, and Clifford said, no, don't tell me, not until you're ready. And I'm just like, oof, we need that type of support and love in our life, man. Goodness gracious, so good. It's so black too. Like, that's a real black thing to do, you know what I mean? So Mercedes and Terica are laying on the couch seemingly after her procedure. We see Pastor Woodbine come on, and she says, mama, am I gonna burn to hell? And she says, baby, if you're gonna burn to hell, I'm gonna be right there with you. Not to say that she won't, but somehow or another, knowing that we'll have the support and we won't be alone makes things a little bit easier. You know, religion and, you know, having an abortion is very obviously, you know, a touchy subject, which I won't get into right now. But girl, you know, they bond. She was like, no, we're gonna leave her on, because when we turn her off, we give her that power. And I think she calls her mom in that scene. It's like, you know, that's what mamas do. You know, she didn't tell Shell, she told her mom. She was no longer Sadie, she was mama. And the next scene, very final scene, we see Haley, okay, show up to Keyshawn's house, and she's like, you know, Derek's like, who are you? She's like, oh, I know Haley, I just went to the Jackson outlets and I got something for Keyshawn, which I thought was interesting because we all know that Mercedes was just at the Jackson outlets with her daughter. So what's up, Haley? Are you following people? Is there something we don't know about you? You get what I'm saying? Got my eyes open for Haley, and she's in the room with Keyshawn, and she's holding baby Regal, and she tells her this really cryptic fantasy life story about the girl, you know, was in a relationship with an abusive man. She saved all her tears, the tears flooded out, and it killed her baby. And essentially telling Keyshawn, like, girl, don't let this man kill you or your baby. Don't let him break you like that. And she hands her the bag. Inside the bag was a cell phone, and she says, listen, baby, you know, you gotta figure out your way out. Google me, Haley Colton. There's more ways to get out. And I can't wait to see who Haley Colton is she is, because she got some strength, she got some balls. We know she's powerful. We know that she likes to wield her power, and we know that Keyshawn needs a little bit of protection. So I like that Haley is coming to her defense. I think it's her way of making amends of what happened with her own child. But this episode was good. This episode was good. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, okay? I can't wait to see this Keyshawn and Derek fiasco end. But make sure you like this video. It helps me on YouTube algorithm, and also not to get swallowed up by the big girls up on YouTube, okay? Period. As always, I'm sending you much love and much light, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.